Hey, you're looking for a podcast where you can hear from some great hockey legends, hear them tell some great stories, find out what they're up to today? Well, this is it. It's the Domino's Pizza Overtime Podcast. I'm your host, Gino Retta. Today's guest, he's a goodie, a two-time Stanley Cup champion. He holds the NHL record, are you ready for this? For most consecutive wins by a goaltender. He won 32 straight games. Have you been to the Hockey Hall of Fame? Have you seen the old school mask with the stitches drawn all over it? That mask belongs to today's guest. He's a Boston Bruins legend, a Hockey Hall of Famer. He's Gerry Cheevers. Gerry, welcome to the show, my friend. Great to see you.
Well, it's my pleasure, but let me correct you on one thing.
Okay.
That wasn't a winning record. That was an unbeaten record.
Sorry, unbeaten record. Undefeated in 32.
Okay, we can't fool our audience. Let me tell you about that one. We weren't getting noticed for that streak until later on, around games 28 and 29. It was getting near the end of the season. Tommy Johnson was our coach, and we're playing in Toronto in the second last game. And I was sitting on 22 or 32 without getting beat. And Eddie J was our other goaltender. He was coming back from an injury. And Tommy said, "Do you want to play tonight in Toronto or tomorrow in Boston?" And I said, "I really don't care. You pick it." So he picked Toronto that night. So I said, fine. And felt good. Went to the rink to Maple Leaf Gardens. Went in the dressing room about an hour before the game. Looked around. There was no Orr or Esposito. He said, "What's going on here?" He said, "Well, we sent them home to rest up for the playoffs. We'll see how really good you are." Well, it was 4-0 for the Leafs at the 10-minute mark. I think it ended up 4-0 that game. But the strange part of that game, and I really, that didn't faze me at all, is that the next year, if we would have won that game, the next year, the first 11 games I went unbeaten. So that would have been in the 40s. But that was a very good team.
That's crazy, though. Like you say, you didn't notice it till you're in your late 20s and the 27 or 28 games in this undefeated streak. Did you really not notice what was going on? Nobody came up to you and said anything to you at that point?
Well, I think the scribes probably got a hold of midway in the 20s, but I knew we're going good, and I'm trying to think if I was playing a lot of the games straight. I think Eddie was hurt that for a lot of that year, Eddie Johnson. So that's why I played so many games in a row. And when he come back, it was maybe we're alternating. I really don't know the situation, but it's it's fun to talk to. And I really was at the end. It mattered a little bit, but I ended up coaching the Bruins, and Pete Peters was my goaltender, and he got to 31 games without a loss, and I was coaching him. And one more game without a loss, he would have tied my record. So that night was I did a great job of coaching to get his beat, which is not true. Except our first power play, I had 5 guys who were never on the power play. But Pete played a great game that game, and he deserved to win, but he fell one short.
It's crazy, Gerry. Like the complete, I mean, the goaltending part of the game has changed probably more dramatically than any other aspect of the game. You played in the 70s where you barely had any equipment on. A large part of the net was being exposed. A large part of your body was being exposed. And now today, guys feel like, if they play 50 games in an entire season, that maybe is too much. They got to platoon it more. You played in net, you coached, you were also as a broadcaster. What do you think of what we've done to the goaltending position right now in terms of the way we've changed it, where you're not expected to start every night? Far from it. They want you to rest more often.
Well, that part, but the first part is everything that happens in goal today, in my opinion, was, I don't know when it started, way after I retired, but it dealt with safety. And the National Hockey League somehow got it in their mind that we got to protect the goalies more. Well, I mean, they might as well just got them a deep sea diving uniform or something like that if they want to protect them. Goalies can protect themselves. And I think that NHL was really worried about having a goalie killed or something like that. But, we're all humans. We take care of ourselves. But then the equipment got I did a commercial for a company in Canada 20 years ago when the equipment started changing. It took me about 3 hours and 10 people to put the equipment on. I didn't know where what went and anything like that. And once again, it all deals in safety. Now they're getting bigger. They're getting. I watched a college game last night. They have the Frozen Four. Both goalies were like 6'5", which what they're looking for, I guess. But
Yeah.
these 6'5" goalies are down on their knees all night. They take away their positives that because they're so big and they're all over the place. And I look at the goalies today, and I like them, and I don't like them. You know what I mean? I love the guy in Florida because he's trying so hard and he won a cup. Barbowski, the guy in Tampa, who I get to see often, he's won a couple of cups. They're all coached good enough, but they just drive me nuts. The goals that go up top. I mean, I remember playing for Punch Imlach. If I ever let a goal in the short side or over my shoulders or a bad angle, I'd be in Sudbury so quick, by bus, not by plane, by bus, and that's the way it was. I mean, my old coach in Boston, Harry Sinden, one time where we were playing in Maple Leaf Gardens, obviously against the Leafs, and I let a couple of goals, I think, go over me. And he sent a defenseman. I know what it was. I was going down too much that game. He sent a defenseman out to say, "Hey, stay in your feet." You know, I felt like going to the bench and telling him to mind his own business, but he was the coach. But it is different. It's night and day difference than when we played. Uh, with a goaltender from our era like Dryden or
Yeah.
Smithy or Tony or Bernie or Eddie Jockman,
Yeah.
would they play today? Sure they would, and they'd be damn good too.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of the way, like, you're talking a lot about the protection of the equipment and the humongous equipment that covers a big part of the net. What about the way we're protecting goalies today with the rules, the whole goaltender interference? We had Ronnie Hextall on the show last week, and he was great. He was like, in my day, the referees didn't protect you. Nobody talked about goaltender interference. So he was getting 8 and 12 game suspensions for taking matters into his own hands with his stick to make sure no one came anywhere near him. What do you think of the way we're protecting goalies right now, keeping contact completely away from them?
I don't like it. I mean, you want to stop that? Tighten the posts. Guys won't be coming to the net so much if that's the case.
Yeah.
But Hextall, I didn't play against him, but Billy Smith I played against. I had a little bit of it in me. Jockman had a little in him. Protecting your area. Now you don't have to do that, as you said. The league does that, and quite frankly, I don't think the league should do anything that's part of hockey. And part of hockey is the physical part. It's my crease. I have to protect it. I don't need the ref to protect it. And if a guy's going to come and run me, he's only going to do it once. And I'm sure Hextall and Smitty would say the same. So you know what? I kind of think they overdo it. I mean, but once again, it gets back to, hey, we want a goalie out for 6 months because some netwit ran him through the net. And if they put the nets down, I know it's going to probably have more injuries. It's going to stop a lot of guys. If they anchor the nets down, it's
Yeah.
going to stop a lot of guys from going kamikaze into the goal.
Jerry, I want to ask you about one of the most iconic moments, one of the most famous, if not the most famous picture in the history of the NHL. The 1970 Stanley Cup final. It was May 10th, 1970. Your Bruins up 3-0 on the Blues. You're in the Stanley Cup final. It's game 4, tied 3-3 in overtime. And Bobby Orr scores that goal where after he scores, he's flying through midair. Bobby's probably signed that picture a million times. Everybody's got a copy of that. Now, here's the behind the scenes to that. If not for you, who was in net for Boston at that point, you say that goal never would have happened that dramatic. Explain that to our audience.
Well, I wasn't very famous for being. We were a heavy favorite in that series. They were an expansion, not to grade them. We were a big favorite. We won the 3 games, and we're up. It looked like a no contest. Well, I wasn't very good in that game, but most games like that, I didn't struggle. I wasn't paying attention, but I let 2 of the worst goals in history in. two of the worst goals a kid could have stopped, a baby could have stopped. So really what I was doing was forcing it into overtime so Orr could get that goal. If I would have made saves, you might not have heard of Bobby Orr. But here's the thing. 3-3, Bobby gets the goal. I made a save in the last 20, 30 seconds on my old buddy Larry Keenan. And it was, I'm not saying bragging like this. I still remember the save. I was down and out. And once again, I was playing terrible. And somehow I put my hand behind my back and Larry shot the puck in my glove. It looked like the dumbest save you've ever seen. And therefore we went into overtime. But I let two brutal goals in that game. I keep kidding them now, but I said, you know what? If I stopped that, we would have won 3-1, couple cups. Yeah, you're another player, Bobby. But he liked it, and it was very fitting in that era that Bobby got that goal.
Listen, for somebody who played with, Phil Esposito, Fred Stanfield, Ken Hodge, um, Bobby Orr. I mean, I'm going to get to where you think he stands overall in a second, but first, as a guy who played with him, like I try to explain it now. Like I watched your era of hockey. I got to see Bobby Orr play at his best, so I could say it. But from a guy who played with him, from a guy who sat there and Bobby Orr picked the puck up behind your own net, and everybody on the ice was terrified about what he was going to do and what he could do. How do you put into words how amazing this guy was and how he dominated the game when he had the puck on his stick?
Well, first of all, our side wasn't nervous. We were excited when Bobby got the puck. But the first game Bobby played, we played Detroit and Gordie Howe, and an unbelievable game. And I sat back in net and watching what was happening. And early in the game, Bobby made a rush, great speed around the net, flipped a little pass in front, and was sort of maybe looking at his pass, not admiring, but looking to see the result of his pass. And Gordie clocked him one, put him down like the old "Welcome to the League" kid, Gordie Howe hit, which we all know about. So we're all sitting back there, and no one was said, nothing was said, and the game ended up a tie. I think it was 2-2 or 3-3. So you really couldn't go any way. Gordie comes down with a minute left, and he's a right-handed shot on Bobby's side, and he takes a step wide and lets the shot go, and I deflected it in the corner. I was playing it, deflected in the other corner somehow, and I heard this great roar, and I look up, and Bobby's laid Gordie out flatter than a pancake, and there's your answer, Mr. Howe, and you knew right there and then he was going to be a great, great player, and Gordie and him just respected each other after that. But that was his first game. So that's when you knew in training camp and everything, the reputation he had coming was justified by, I mean, if he didn't have the puck for 40 minutes in a scrimmage in camp, I don't know who else had it. But let me say this about Bobby. I don't have to applaud his greatness as a hockey player. But in my opinion, he was one of the greatest teammates I've ever had. And he cared about winning. He cared about his players on his team contributing. He wanted everyone to be part of it, and he got a goal in the playoffs one year when we beat the Rangers. I think we beat him 3-0 in the sixth game, and Cash got the puck out of the corner and fed it to him. And he drilled it in, and they were sort of celebrating the goal. And Bobby said to Cash, "Nice tip in." Cash says, "I was 30 feet away." Nice tip in, take the goal. In other words, he didn't want the goal. He was going to win the Conn Smythe no matter what, but he didn't want it. But that's the way he is. But he did things on the ice were phenomenal.
Yeah.
I know players have played with Wayne Gretzky and Mario and Gordy and Big John and Hull and all these guys. They're all going to say what a great play. But I think the thing they had in common, I don't know the other guys that well, but they're all great teammates. They're great team players. They're all somewhat humble about their abilities, and they cared about the game. These guys are, we were very lucky in hockey to have a group of players. I'm sure other sports are the same, but to have the group of great players that we had to sort of direct us, put us on our way of being a great sport.
But you were a part of greatness at that point, yourself and Espo and Orr, like you guys brought the cup to Boston in 1970, which was, I mean, it's hard for us today to understand how big that was for the city of Boston and for the game in general. What did it mean to you personally when it was done? The game was over. I mean, you guys, you swept the series, so it wasn't close. You knew you were going to win, but at one point it was actually done and it was over. What was that moment like for you personally, and then the fallout of it afterwards in Boston?
Uh, Winning the cup and that on the Orr goal, as we had spoken earlier, to me was the greatest thrill I've had in hockey. And I was lucky enough to play with Father Bauer, play for Father Bauer on a Memorial Cup team, American League championships, Central League championships. But really, my thought was when I decided to turn pro, there's only six goalies. For me to make the NHL, it's probably going to be a long, long shot. And I got lucky, I did make it. But when I decided to turn pro, it was for one reason, to win a Stanley Cup. We finally won it. So I guess to find a little corny, my dream came true, and there was nothing better than that. The second cup winning in New York might have been a little better, beating the Rangers in New York. But it's all about winning the cup, and that's the game of hockey to me. And I know there's been great players that didn't win it, and I feel bad for them. But if you get to enjoy it, you can ask anyone, how they liked it, and it'll be the ultimate.
Listen. Obviously your biggest moment was in 1970 when you won the cup. The following year, you guys had an unbelievable team, huge upset to the Montreal Canadiens. Then you come back in 72 and you win the cup again. You briefly touched on the fact that you faced the Rangers. Let me follow up on that because it was way more dramatic than that. You beat the Rangers in six, and you actually clinched the cup at MSG with a shutout. Could you have picked a better way to wrap up your second Stanley Cup?
Well, I said winning the first cup was the biggest thrill in hockey. Might have been my second, but it was a game that Orr was phenomenal. We lost game five. Don't forget, the Rangers come back and beat us game five. They had all the momentum going, and we sort of had our heads down. And I'll tell you a funny story about that game. And this is just me. And we had a doctor, Dr. Wilkinson. He was the most serious guy I've ever seen, and a great guy. Just passed away. He recently, a few years ago, at 100, and a great man. And I was always the last guy in the dressing room. This was for the sixth game, and I walked in, and the room was about as quiet as you've ever seen. It was like a wake. And I said, "Uh-oh." So I went up to Doc, and he was pacing in the room. I said, "Doc, did I ever tell you what happened to me in the summer?" He says, "No." I said, "I woke up one morning, I had number five on my mind. Number five, that's all I could think of." But I said, I looked at the calendar, it was May 5th. It was the fifth day of the fifth month. "Yeah, well, what did you do?" Now I got the players' attention now. I said, "Well, you know me, Doc, I went to the track." He says, "Yeah, what happened?" I said, "In the fifth race, I bet 500 to win on the five, and he was 5-1. And I got everyone's attention. And Doc says, he yelled out, 'Did he win? Did he win?' I said, 'No, Doc, he finished fifth.'" So I sort of got the players' attention. It loosened the team up a little bit. But once again, if Bobby Orr didn't play that way, and I had never had the puck go by me so many times in a game and not go in. The Rangers held a two-man advantage in the second period in that game. It might have been the whole 2 minutes, but it was, I don't know, it was a long time. And I remember Vic Hatfield in the process of putting his stick up in celebration, and one of our defensemen, Donnie Ari, had lost his glove during all the scramble around the net. And the puck's going in, and he's about to put his stick up. It hit the glove, twisted, and missed the net. About three times in that sequence of two men short, I thought the puck was in, and it never did go in. So that was, but Bobby got two goals that game, and it was really a one-man show.
Gerry, you're hilarious. That was a great story. It was a great. You know what? I want you to tell the story about Eddie Jackman. I remember Eddie Jackman, the Rangers goalie, after that Stanley Cup final, and he had a comment about Bobby Orr, and you had a good comeback. Do you remember that story at all?
No, no. I think the story you might be thinking of, it's I don't know what is it. Vic Hatfield, I think was their captain, said, they wouldn't have won if they didn't have Orr and Esposito. I said, no kidding. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. But I don't know what Jackman's. I think Jackman had a run in with Sanderson during that series.
Yeah. Get ready for the game with the Domino's $8.99 mix and match deal. Score big with any medium two-topping pizza and any two items like pastas, stuffed cheesy bread, boneless chicken, or classic chicken wings. Domino's has you covered. Order today from Canada's favorite pizza at domino's.ca. That was great. It was great. I mean, I love picking your brain on your memories of that. So now you win two Stanley Cups with one of the greatest hockey players in the history of the NHL. And we've had this debate. I want to ask you for your opinion. And I know where you're going to go with this. We always say if you had to pick the Mount Rushmore of hockey, I think Gretzky and Lemieux, obvious. And then it seems like Howe and Orr would be the other two. So if you had to pick the four greatest players of all time, is that what you would pick as your Mount Rushmore? Gretzky, Lemieux, Orr, and Howe?
Yes, I'm not sure in what order I know what order I put them in.
Tell me.
I'd pick Orr, Gretzky, Lemieux, and Gordy. And I
Wow.
love Gordy.
What made you, apart from the fact you won two Stanley Cups with him and the fact that, he revolutionized the way you played defense, what makes you put Orr above everybody else?
Well, that's just a biased opinion. I mean, he was a teammate. I know what type of a team player. That doesn't mean Gretzky or Wayne or Mario or certainly Gordy. I mean, I just didn't play with him. If I played with Wayne Gretzky, I'd probably put him first. I played with Mario or Gordy, they'd be first. But I played with Bobby, and he did revolutionize the game. He made defense a big part of offense. He competed to the nth degree. He was, and maybe it's not fair, but you could ask a teammate of Wayne's or Mario's or Gordy's, how would they rank the top four? Well,
Oh,
I'm
we
sure
will.
their man would be in it.
Now you got to play with those other guys, though. The 1976 Canada Cup, in my opinion, the greatest gathering of Canadian talent ever at an international event. I mean, 72 obviously was more notoriety because it was Canada Russia, but the 76 Canada Cup team, you were on it. You had Bobby Orr, Larry Robinson, Serge Savard, Denny Pavin, Guy Lafleur, Bobby Hull, Steve Shutt, Daryl Sittler, Phil Esposito. What was that like to be a part of a team of that magnitude?
Well, first of all, it scared me to death in practice. We're the greatest shooters in the world. I remember one time Stevie Shutt. Now they're, uh, and Steve was an opponent in a big Montreal Boston rivalry, and he blasted one off my shoulder, right? And you really can't say anything. These are great players. And he come up to me after and he said, "I'm sorry about that. You'll never get one over your knees again." And he never did. So they had great. That was very good of him. He probably did that because he knew I let him score a couple goals during the season. But it was a great. Bobby was hurting a little bit. That I don't think he played. He might have played all the games. I don't remember. But what a lineup! And yet that lineup had to go to overtime to beat the Czechs. I think Dale Sittler got the goal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Uh, Rogie was the goaltender. I backed Rogie up, and he was great. And it was, but I didn't realize until you just named that lineup. That was the best of the best in the NHL.
And you were a part of it, which is amazing. I want to get back to the fact that you talked about taking high shots. As a kid growing up, when I was watching you play, we all, as we played ball hockey, we all did this. We all took the goalie masks and marked it with little stitches because of you. It's like when you walk into the Hall of Fame, your mask is probably one of the most iconic masks in NHL history. For those who don't know what it looks like, Google it. It's the old white mask, and you had drawn with a marker.
My trainer did.
You didn't mark that?
No.
Tell us the story about how that all came to be with
Well,
that whole idea of the mask.
well, I knew first of all I played without a mask, which is every time I think of it I get nervous. But I knew I had to wear a mask, and I started with the mask made by Lefty Wilson, the trainer of the Detroit Red Wings, but it wasn't doing the job. It wasn't anchored. So I met a man whose son was a goalie in the south of Boston, Ernie Higgins, and he came over and made the mask up, and I had it anchored. So it was a mask, right? So it was a white mask. I never even wore white socks. I hated white for some reason. It was a sign of purity, and it didn't fit me. Every morning, winding to practice, I used to say to myself two things: how am I going to get out of practice, and how am I going to decorate my mask? So this one day, I'm in there. Harrison was the coach, and the puck flipped up, and if I didn't have my mask on, it wouldn't have cut me. But I fainted like I was hurt badly. Went into the dressing room. I was on my second beer, I think, and Harry came in. He said, "You're not hurt. Get out there." So I goes, "Okay." So I go out, and Frosty, John Forrestal, our legendary trainer, said, "Hold it." And he went and he got a big, I think it was red, the first stitches, and painted a big 8 stitch cut over my my left eye. And we know it there. And we all got giggles and laugh. Next game I played was in St. Louis, and some guy drilled it right off my forehead. And right away, Frosty put a 12-inch cut over my right eye. Then, the sticks come up all the time in scrambles. I said, Frosty, I got a little nick in my left cheek. And that's how it all started, basically. And right now, my mask, and I've turned down a lot of money for it, a lot of collectors, memorabilia collectors, a lot of money, sits on my grandson's wall at Rice University in Houston, Texas, where he's taking a doctorate in medicine. And I give it to him. And I'm telling you, I turned down a lot of money, and I'm not allowed into his room in case I steal it. But you know what? More than anything with that mask, and a lot of, I feel I'm a pioneer because, goalies aren't too smart, and maybe they would have never come up with decorating their mask. But there's some great art on the mask, and I mean, and they tried to relate it to their team and their character. And so I'm sure it would have happened, but I'm very proud of that mask.
I don't blame you. It's iconic, man. We all know it. Everybody refers to it, even people who aren't hockey fans. I was talking to somebody and I said, I'm talking to Gerry Cheevers today. And they went, Oh, I don't remember that much about Gerry because, they're a little younger. And I said, Well, you know the mask. And he go, Oh, I know that mask. I've seen that picture at the Hall of Fame. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, you get inducted in 1985. What was that? How did you find out that you were going in, and what did that mean to you?
Um, I was in Boston actually playing golf when they announced it, and I was quite shocked to be. I never, ever thought I would be in that position. And so, but when you get chosen, you might as well take advantage of it. And to really answer your question, I don't know what I thought, but I was quite happy, I guess. And and the induction, I had Father Bauer, I guess, introduced me, how whatever they do there. And it was quite an evening. I had a lot of friends from Boston come up. My family was there. My mother was there at 85. She was up probably 60, 70 years old then. And it was a good night.
I want to ask you about something that's near and dear to your heart, and that's your charity work for Ace Bailey's Children's Foundation, the fund that you help raise money for it. For members of our audience who don't remember who Ace was, tell us of course, we lost him in 9/11 in the United Airlines flight 175. Tell our audience who he was, what he meant to you, and why it's such an important charity for you to be involved in.
Well, first of all, Ace was, I don't know if he's on both Stanley Cup teams. He was a young player. He could, I mentioned earlier how Bobby had the puck in scrimmages, and if he didn't have it, Ace would have it. He had a lot of great ability, a little wild as a young player, but a lovable guy. And when we lost him, all of us lost a dear friend. And I don't do much with his. He's done a great job with the Children's Hospital. My foundation is for cystic fibrosis. That we went in partners with Ray Bork's foundation, and we raised money for CF. And I must say it's coming. CF, it's on its way to be defeated. So what we do is good. But Aces Foundation was for kids, and we as Bruins endorse it and support it all the time. We go to as many functions as we can. But it's Ace loved kids. Used to have morning skates, and the guys that didn't play much stayed out of the extra, and we take the kids to the morning skate so they could go on the ice after us. Ace would stay out with them for hours and for a while, and he'd come in, he'd be sweating, and the kids would have a ball with him. He was great. It was a big loss for us.
Yeah. Gerry, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. You've made me laugh out loud. You've had some great, funny stories. Before I let you go, we do something we call 5 Fast Facts, where I ask you 5 quick questions. You give me the 5 things that come to your mind first. You up for it?
Yep.
All right. Time now for 5 Fast Facts with 2-time Stanley Cup champion, Hockey Hall of Famer Gerry Cheevers. Gerry, who was the best teammate you ever played with?
Bobby Orr.
Understandable that. Who was the best?
I'll give a second one. Okay.
Who's that? Wayne Cashman. Yeah. A legend.
I'll give you a third pick, Phil Esposito and the rest of the Bruin team. I'm sorry.
You're afraid you're going to get back.
Someone might be watching this.
What about me? I get that. Okay, who was the best coach you ever played for?
Probably Harry Sinden and Father Bauer. Father Bauer at St. Mike's and Harry Sinden at the Bruins.
All right, the big bad Bruins, you played against some tough opponents. Who did you hate playing against the most and why?
Well, I'll quickly answer that by saying I hated playing against Montreal because we never beat them. And I love playing against Philly, love playing against the Rangers because we beat them. And I will say this to someone answer your question. We never beat Montreal, and I'll go to my grave feeling bad about it. But they had like 8 Hall of Famers. But here's my thought on that. We never hated. We hated the Rangers. We hated the Flyers later on. We never hated. How could you hate Guy Lafleur, Yvonne Cornway? How could you hate those guys? I hated Dryden personally, but that's beside the point. But we never hated it, and they never did anything wrong. They never went offside. They didn't do anything wrong. They never had too many men in the ice. But anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Fair enough. After all the success in your career, both on and off the ice, what's the one piece of advice you would have given yourself if you could have given a piece of advice to a 15-year-old Gerry Cheevers? What would you have said?
Contrary to what I did, I would say work your butt off and enjoy it and have fun. Make sure when you leave practice, when you go to practice, have a smile on your face. And no matter how tough it is, have a smile when you leave. Enjoy it. I'll tell you what, I played 21 years. And I would say for at least 20 of those years, I enjoyed it. Maybe too much at times. But try to enjoy it. There's no use going to work in a squirrely attitude. Enjoy it. Have fun. Have fun.
One last question for you. If you hadn't become a professional hockey player, what career do you think you would have had instead?
Well, I knew I was too heavy to be a jockey, and I would like to have been a jockey. And besides being too heavy, I was scared of horses. But that's a good question. Without talking about another sport, I have no idea. I think I don't know. I would have probably just grew up in St. Catharines and got a job at General Motors or something, raised a family, whatever we did. But thank God I had hockey.
Yeah, and we're thankful as well because we loved watching you play. It's 5 Fast Facts with goaltending legend, Hockey Hall of Famer Gerry Cheevers. Gerry, thank you so much for this, buddy. You sound like you're still in great shape. You sound like you're still a really happy guy. I couldn't be happier for you. Thank you for this.
Well, it's my pleasure. I enjoy talking to people like you and Gino, and anytime, except Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday when I golf.
Okay. What's your handicap? What are you at now?
I'm about I should my age. I'm 84 years old. My handicap's around 10.
Good for you, shooting your age. That's something we can all aspire.
But I'm playing the pink tees now, not the blues.
Fair enough. That's okay, though. That's okay.
Right. That's right.
Be well, my friend. Thank you again for this.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Two-time Stanley Cup champion, Boston Bruins legend, and Hockey Hall of Famer, Gerry Cheevers has been our guest. The Overtime Podcast is proudly presented by Domino's Pizza and Athlete's Care. If you're watching the big game at home or hungry right now, Domino's has you covered. Check out the Domino's Mix and Match deal. Medium 2-topping pizzas, pasta, stuffed cheesy bread, boneless chicken, or classic chicken wings. Any 2 items for only $8.99 each. Canada's favorite pizza at Domino's.ca. Athletes Care is proud to be celebrating their 26th year offering sports medicine services to both elite athletes and the general population who require rehab for a new or chronic injury or pain. Go to where the best go. Athletes Care Sports Medicine Clinics with 26 locations in the Greater Toronto Area and in Ottawa. Hey, if you missed any parts of the show, don't worry. Visit our website at overtimepodcast.ca. The Domino's Pizza Overtime Podcast can be found on Spotify, iTunes Podcasts, or any of your favorite podcast platforms. As well, subscribe to our YouTube channel at O-Time Podcast. Until next week, I'm Gino Retta saying so long, hockey fans, and thanks for joining us on the Domino's Overtime Podcast.